Hi, I'm Vanessa Collingridge, TV presenter and impact coach, and I'm here to help you with my top tips for video conferencing. Now, there are lots of video calling programs to choose from FaceTime to Skype and Zoom and many others. Take a look at the options available and work out which is best for you. But the bigger question is this: how do you give a great video conference? What are the do's and don'ts? And how can you maximise your impact for those watching and listening when you don't have that physical connection? Well, here are my top 10 tips to help you make a great impression and get excellent online impact. First up, before you go live, test the connection to make sure it really works. Actually try out the video, practice with a colleague if it's easier, and check what the other person will be seeing. What does that picture say about you and your business? Make sure that your image and background are not distracting in any way. Make sure the background is clutter-free, tidy and organised. No rows of dirty coffee cups, or if you're working from home, no purring cats or piles of laundry. And importantly, make sure there are no private or confidential materials visible on screen. Some people prefer to cover their webcams manually when they're not in use, just in case you switch it on by accident and your client or customer sees that you're eating your lunch, reading a magazine, or worse still, looking like you're just out of bed. It's hard to get your credibility back after that. So always be ready. Be professional. Tip 2, clothing. On which note, what are you wearing? Just because you might be working from home doesn't mean you should mooch around in your PJs. Your clothing affects how businesslike you'll feel, and it certainly affects how your clients, colleagues and customers will react to you. So you can probably ditch the full-on suit if everyone knows you're at home, but keep it smart and professional. Top tips for clothing. Think about what works best on screen. Avoid big or busy patterns such as fine stripes and zigzags, as most cameras will struggle to read these and they might end up strobing at the other end. Also, think about colours. Blocks of colour look best, but avoid bright reds, zingy oranges and shocking pinks. Again, these can distort the image and bleed on screen. Not a great look. In general, the simpler the better to avoid any distraction for the viewer. And remember, no jangly jewellery or clicking pens or anything that clatters on the desk. Tip 3, position yourself. Make sure that the camera is well aligned, that you are large and in centre frame. You can't make an impact if you're half hidden in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Make sure that you're looking right down the barrel of the camera, not looking too far up or down. Looking down at the camera can make you seem, well, a bit stuck up, a bit snooty, a bit distant. Think about it. You are literally looking down your nose at the other person. On the other hand, looking up at the camera can make you seem a bit hesitant, a bit unsure, even subservient or coy. Not somebody who is confident of themselves and their message. Covering your mouth or touching your face has the same effect. So again, don't do this. So, top tips then. Sit tall, keep your head up and look straight at the camera, and then keep looking at it. This will help you look much more confident, even if you're feeling a bit nervous. Being nervous is natural, but the more you do all this, the easier it will get. Tip 4, lighting. Make sure that your image on screen is well lit with no awkward shadows. Take time to play around with the lighting to get yourself looking as good as possible. Make sure that your eyes are really clearly visible and that if you wear glasses, there's no glare coming off the lenses that might be distracting. Again, keep making sure you get this right before you go live with the video call. Tip 5, your message. Now you've got the shot ready and you're clearly visible with no distractions, let's think about what you're going to say. Top tip here is to get organised well in advance. What are the key things you want or need to get out of the call? Most importantly, what does the audience need to know? Keep this simple, preferably 1 point, certainly no more than 3 points. And then prepare. Read the agenda or get that presentation pitch perfect. Get your questions ready and think through the questions that other people might ask you. Think through the meeting. You might be at home or in unusual circumstances, but you still need to be prepared, be confident, and look professional. Don't ever think you can wing it by having your crib notes on the desk. One thing that really destroys your impact is looking down and flicking through your notes. This breaks eye contact and makes a distracting noise in the microphone. It just looks messy and frankly unprepared. So to avoid this, my top tip is to have your checklist of key points and any key facts or statistics on sticky notes attached securely to the computer right by the camera. This means you can see them while keeping good eye contact with the camera. This way you'll look super organised and as though you have all the facts you need right at the tip of your tongue. Tip 6, the call. Okay, so you're ready to go. You're dialing into the meeting or someone's calling you. What's the first thing you need to think about? Well, actually, it's 2 things, eye contact and smile. On screen, it's harder to connect emotionally with your audience, whether that's one other person, multiple others in different locations, or a whole room full. The trick is to bring warmth and energy. So look right into the camera, smile, and greet the other person or people with enthusiasm. You might want to use what's called an eyebrow flash, raising your eyebrows like this. Hi. This gives you great energy and warmth on screen. If there are multiple people on the call and you've not met them before, make sure you introduce yourself by name. That way you'll lock your name with your face, making it less likely they'll forget you. For example, "Hi, Vanessa Collingridge, good to meet you." If you've called the meeting or you're being interviewed, thank people for their time. "Hi, Vanessa Collingridge, good to meet you. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk." Remember, first impressions count, and we make those impressions within a split second of seeing or hearing someone, so keep your voice warm and animated too. What's more, those first impressions tend to stick, so maximise your impact. Make those first few moments really count to create a great impression. Tip 7, focus. Now then, have you ever had one of those meetings that rambles on and on and on without achieving anything? Well, no more. If you've called the meeting, you need to take charge of this. You need to lead. So lay out the ground rules for the call. Like this. Okay, before we get going, let's agree we have 1 hour to discuss options for the project and agree a plan of action. Or maybe we've got 60 minutes, so to keep everything running to time, let's have a 5-minute update from everyone around the table on what they've been doing, and then let's move on to a group discussion. Make sure you drive the meeting, keep it on track, and keep to time. Brand yourself as a great leader. Now then, there might be times in a group discussion where you want to break in and ask a question or raise an important point. So how do you do that in a group chat with multiple people or when someone else is hogging the airtime? Well, firstly, signal that you want to come in with your body language, facial expression, or by raising a hand like this. And you can signal with your voice. That's a good point. If I can break in here and suggest, and so on. If there are 3 or 4 people in the room who don't know each other well, it's always worth identifying yourself. For example, "It's Vanessa here. A key point is," and so on. This way you can keep everyone on track and on time. Tip 8, active listening. What about when you're not talking but listening? How can you maximise your impact then? Too many people are passive listeners. They look down or away, or worse still, you know they're sneakily reading emails or sending texts. Please don't ever do this. It not only looks unprofessional, but it's rude, and you wouldn't like it to happen to you, would you? Top tip for staying engaged: be an active listener. Keep that eye contact with the camera. Sit up in your chair, sit forwards, and give feedback with your facial expressions, for example, by nodding and smiling, or by looking serious and concerned. Active listening helps you stay focused and alert. You'll absorb more and look great. What's not to love? Tip 9, key points. What are your key points for your message? The take-homes, the need-to-knows for those watching and listening. Here, the advice is simple. Keep it simple. Spoken information, especially new information, is really hard to absorb. So think in advance about the best way to say what you need to say. Be clear, be compelling, and be consistent. Make your case and then support it with examples or illustrations. And don't overwhelm those listening with too much information, as they just won't take it in. You can always follow up with written information, background material, or supporting data after the video call. That's a great way to build on the relationship with your colleagues and clients. But in short, the message is: tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. Tip 10, call to action. Last but by no means least, how do you end a video call? Well, you might want to ask if anyone has any questions. For example, okay, thanks everyone for your time. Before we finish, does anyone have any questions? Make sure everyone has contributed. Not everybody is comfortable talking on camera, and we know women tend to ask fewer questions than men. So if need be, prompt folk to come in. For example, Katie, how does what John's told us fit with your side of the business? Again, actively drive the meeting if you can. Keep everyone engaged and keep everything moving along. Everybody will thank you for it. And when it is time to wind up, briefly thank people for their time, sum up what's been agreed, and critically restate clearly what actions need to happen next and by whom. Remember, verbal information is hard to remember, so that summary is really, really important. Even better, send out a brief email after the meeting confirming what's been agreed and who is going to do what. That way, you can hold people to their commitments. Well, I hope that's given you some good ideas for your next video call and some great tips for getting maximum impact.